My phone battery just hit 15% and I'm not near a charger, and I can already feel the panic starting. What if there's an emergency? What if someone needs to reach me? What if my car breaks down and I can't call for help? And it's not just the emergency thing, it's everything. My whole life is in this phone. My banking, my work emails, my calendar, my maps. If this thing dies, I literally don't know how to exist in the world anymore. I don't even remember phone numbers because they're all stored in here. Plus, I was supposed to meet my friend Sarah at that new coffee place downtown, but I can't remember the exact address because I was going to GPS it when I got there. Now I'm going to be wandering around looking like a lost tourist in my own city. And what if she's trying to text me to change plans or tell me she's running late? What if she thinks I'm standing her up because I'm not responding? My phone could die any second, and then I'm just disconnected from everything and everyone.
Emily, at least your phone anxiety is about practical stuff. I spent 2 hours yesterday trying to figure out if my smartwatch is tracking too much personal data and selling it to advertisers who are building a psychological profile to manipulate my purchasing decisions.
Wait, is that actually happening?
I don't know. That's the problem. Every app wants access to my location, my contacts, my photos, my microphone, and I keep saying yes because I want the convenience, but then I lie awake wondering if my phone is listening to my conversations and targeting ads based on what I say out loud. Like, yesterday I mentioned to my roommate that I need new running shoes, and today my Instagram is full of sneaker ads. Coincidence? Or is my phone literally eavesdropping on my private conversations to sell me stuff?
Oh God, now I'm going to be paranoid about that too.
And don't even get me started on video calls. I've been avoiding important work meetings because I'm convinced I look terrible on camera, like everyone else looks professional and put together. But when I see myself in that little video window, I look like a ghoul who hasn't slept in weeks. So I've been making excuses to do phone calls instead, but now my boss probably thinks I'm not collaborative or that I'm hiding something. But I can't explain that I'm avoiding video calls because I have body dysmorphia about my own face on screens.
You two are worried about phone batteries and video calls. I've been researching what happens when the entire digital infrastructure collapses, and it's not pretty. One major solar flare or electromagnetic pulse could wipe out all the satellites and power grids simultaneously.
Please don't.
No, listen, we're completely dependent on technology for everything: food distribution, water treatment, medical records, financial transactions. If the internet goes down permanently, most people wouldn't know how to survive.
How permanently are we talking?
Years, potentially. And meanwhile, artificial intelligence is advancing so fast that experts can't even predict what it'll be capable of next year. We could be looking at mass unemployment as AI replaces entire industries. But here's the really terrifying part. We're training AI systems on all our personal data, our conversations, our behavior patterns. We're literally teaching machines how to think like us, and then we're surprised when they start making decisions that feel unpredictable or threatening.
I think I need to put my phone in airplane mode and hide under a blanket.
Airplane mode won't help when AI systems are embedded in everything from your car to your refrigerator. Smart homes are just surveillance networks that we pay to install in our own houses.
So we're being watched by our appliances, manipulated by our phones, and replaced by robots?
While simultaneously becoming so dependent on all of it that we can't function without it. It's the perfect trap. Technology makes us helpless while making us think we're more powerful.
And my phone battery is now at 12%, so this conversation is making everything worse.
What if we're the last generation that remembers life before smartphones? What if we're raising kids who will never know how to be alone with their thoughts or navigate without GPS?
Or what if AI advances so fast that human intelligence becomes obsolete within our lifetimes? What if we become like pets to superintelligent machines?
S-top. I can't handle existential AI dread when I'm already panicking about my phone dying.
But that's exactly the problem. We can't separate normal technology anxiety from legitimate concerns about digital dependency and AI development.
Because they're all connected. Our personal device anxiety is a symptom of our collective loss of autonomy in a world that's becoming increasingly automated and surveilled.
I just wanted to meet my friend for coffee, and now I'm having an existential crisis about the future of human consciousness.
Welcome to Anxiety in 2025, where every technology problem is also a philosophical nightmare.
And every convenience comes with the hidden cost of surrendering another piece of our independence.
My phone is at 10%, and I still don't know where that coffee shop is. Okay, everyone just breathe for a second. If you just heard that and you're now staring at your phone wondering if it's plotting against you, we need to take a step back.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cora. And yes, that was me spiraling about whether my smartwatch is building a psychological profile to manipulate my shopping habits, which, by the way, might actually be happening. But obsessing about it isn't helping.
I'm Gianna, and I just convinced everyone that AI is about to make human intelligence obsolete while simultaneously enslaving us through our own appliances, which is a fun Tuesday for me.
And I'm Emily, currently at 9% battery and genuinely worried about meeting my friend for coffee without GPS. So this is What Me Worry, episode 10, where we explore digital anxiety and our complicated relationship with technology.
The thing about technology anxiety is that it's this weird mix of legitimate concerns and completely irrational fears all tangled up together.
Right. Like, there are real issues with data privacy and AI development, but there's also the fact that we panic when our phone battery gets low, even though we survived just fine without phones for most of human history.
And it's happened so fast. Like 15 years ago, most of us didn't have smartphones. Now we feel like we can't function without them.
Which creates this dependency that feels both incredibly convenient and secretly terrifying.
Plus, we're the first generation dealing with these specific anxieties. Our parents didn't have to worry about nomophobia or AI replacing their jobs or whether their smart TV is listening to their conversations.
So today we're going to talk about digital dependency. When does normal technology use cross the line into anxiety-driven behavior?
We'll explore video call anxiety and why we all think we look terrible on camera, even though we probably look fine.
And we'll dig into the bigger picture fears about AI and digital surveillance and how to separate legitimate concerns from anxiety spirals.
Plus, we'll talk to Olivia from Washington, who wrote to us about avoiding video calls entirely because of appearance anxiety and how it's starting to affect her work relationships.
But first, let's acknowledge something important. If you're feeling overwhelmed by technology or worried about digital dependency, those concerns aren't completely crazy.
Technology really has changed faster than our brains can adapt to it. It makes sense that we'd feel anxious about things we don't fully understand but can't live without.
The challenge is figuring out how to use technology in ways that actually help our lives instead of making us more anxious.
And how to tell the difference between reasonable caution about tech and anxiety-driven avoidance that limits our opportunities.
Because completely avoiding technology isn't really an option for most people in 2025, but neither is blind acceptance of every new digital development.
So the goal isn't to become either technophobic or completely uncritical of tech. It's to find a middle ground where we can engage thoughtfully without spiraling.
Which is easier said than done when your phone is literally designed to be addictive and your smart home devices actually are collecting data about you.
Right. The technology companies have spent billions of dollars figuring out how to capture and hold our attention. So if you feel addicted to your devices, that's not a personal failing, that's the intended result.
But that doesn't mean we're powerless. We can learn to use technology more intentionally instead of just reacting to whatever it throws at us.
And we can practice tolerating the discomfort of being temporarily disconnected without assuming it's a catastrophe.
Plus, we can stay informed about technological developments without letting every scary AI headline send us into an existential crisis.
Because the technology isn't going anywhere, but our relationship with it can definitely improve.
Starting with acknowledging that it's okay to feel weird about living in a world where your refrigerator has internet access.
And where artificial intelligence can write better emails than you can, but you still have to pretend you wrote them yourself.
The future is genuinely strange, but we're all figuring it out together.
Even if my smartwatch is judging my fitness levels while doing it.
Speaking of which, my phone is now at 8%, so let's keep moving. Let's talk about what happened to me earlier, the genuine panic when my phone battery got low. Because logically, I know that 15% battery could last hours depending on usage, but my brain treated it like a life or death emergency.
It's like your phone battery percentage has become a direct measurement of your safety level in the world.
Which is actually not completely irrational when you think about how much we rely on phones for basic navigation, communication, and access to services.
Right, but here's what's weird. I was meeting a friend at a coffee shop in my own city. Worst case scenario, I could have asked someone for directions or looked for the place on foot. It's not like I was lost in the wilderness.
But anxiety brain doesn't do worst case scenarios. It does catastrophic scenarios. So dead phone battery becomes trapped forever with no way to communicate with civilization.
There's actually a term for this, nomophobia, no mobile phone phobia. Studies show about 50% of people experience genuine anxiety when separated from their phones.
50%? That makes me feel better and worse at the same time.
Better because you're not alone. Worse because that means half the population is walking around with a low-level dependency on devices that didn't exist 20 years ago.
And it's not just about communication. Our phones have become external brains that store our memories, our knowledge, our social connections, our ability to navigate the world.
So when the battery dies, it's like losing access to a huge part of our cognitive abilities.
But that's also the problem, right? We've outsourced so much mental work to devices that we feel helpless without them.
Exactly. Like, when was the last time any of us memorized a phone number or knew how to get somewhere without GPS?
I genuinely don't know my own mother's phone number by heart anymore. It's just stored in my contacts.
And if I had to navigate to a new place using paper maps or written directions, I would be completely lost.
So, nomophobia isn't just anxiety about being disconnected, it's anxiety about being cognitively impaired.
Which raises the question, is this dependency actually a problem? Or is it just adaptation to modern life?
I think it becomes a problem when the anxiety about disconnection is worse than the actual experience of being disconnected.
Right. Like most of the time when people's phones die or lose signal, they figure out alternatives and everything works out fine. But the anticipatory anxiety about it can be paralyzing.
So maybe the goal isn't to eliminate phone dependency, but to build confidence that we can handle temporary disconnection.
How do you practice that without deliberately putting yourself in difficult situations?
I've been trying small experiments, like leaving my phone in another room for an hour while I'm at home, or taking short walks without it.
That's smart. Gradual exposure to prove to yourself that you can function without constant connectivity.
But what about the legitimate safety concerns? Like, what if there actually is an emergency and you can't reach anyone?
I think that's where you have to look at actual probabilities versus anxiety-driven possibilities. How often do true emergencies happen during the specific time your phone is dead?
And most emergencies that require immediate phone access are medical. And in those situations, you can usually ask someone else to call 911 or drive to a hospital.
That's true. I can't think of many emergency scenarios where being without a phone for a few hours would be the difference between life and death.
Plus, people managed emergencies before cell phones existed. They figured out ways to get help when they needed it.
The real issue is that we've convinced ourselves that constant connectivity is a safety requirement when it's actually more of a convenience that we've become psychologically dependent on.
So how do you break that dependency without going full Luddite and throwing your phone in a river?
Maybe start by noticing when you're checking your phone out of habit versus when you actually need it for something specific.
And practice sitting with the discomfort of not knowing things immediately. Like, if you wonder about something, try waiting to look it up instead of Googling it right away.
Or leaving your phone in another room when you're relaxing at home so you can remember what it feels like to just exist without the option of digital distraction.
The goal isn't to become anti-technology. It's to use technology intentionally instead of compulsively.
And to remember that you're a capable person who can solve problems and navigate the world even when your devices aren't working perfectly.
Even if your phone battery is at 7% and dropping.
Which mine currently is, and somehow I'm surviving this conversation anyway.
Look at that. Proof that low battery anxiety is usually worse than low battery reality.
Okay, let's talk about my video call avoidance because I know this is embarrassing, but I genuinely think I look like a different species on camera compared to how other people look.
What do you mean by different species?
Like everyone else on Zoom calls looks professional and well lit and human shaped. But when I see myself in that little video window, I look like a ghoul who hasn't slept in months and doesn't understand how cameras work.
But you look normal in real life, right? It's specifically the video call version of yourself that looks wrong.
Exactly. And I know that's weird, but I can't shake the feeling that everyone else is seeing the terrible camera version of me and judging my entire professional competence based on how washed out I look on their screen.
This is so relatable. I always spend the first few minutes of video calls trying to adjust my camera angle instead of paying attention to what people are saying.
Yes. And then I'm monitoring my own face in the video window the whole time instead of focusing on the actual meeting.
So you're performing being in a meeting instead of actually being in a meeting.
Right. And afterward, I have no idea what anyone said because I was too busy worrying about whether my lighting was unflattering or if I was making weird facial expressions.
But here's what I don't understand. Why does video call appearance anxiety feel different from regular appearance anxiety?
I think it's because you can see yourself in real time while other people are also seeing you. It's like having a mirror in every social interaction.
Plus, the camera distortion and lighting makes everyone look slightly off compared to how they appear in person. But we assume everyone else looks normal and we're the only one who looks weird.
And there's this added pressure to look professional on camera in a way that feels more performance heavy than just showing up to an in-person meeting.
Exactly. Like in person, people can see your whole body language and presence. But on video calls, it's just your head and shoulders in a little box, so that tiny image feels like it has to represent your entire professional competence.
It's also worth noting that most people hate how they look on video calls. You're not uniquely unfortunate in your camera appearance.
But knowing that intellectually doesn't make the anxiety go away when I'm actually in a meeting.
So what do you do? Just keep avoiding video calls and hope no one notices?
That's what I've been doing, but it's starting to affect my work relationships. My boss mentioned that I seem less engaged in team meetings, and I think it's because I'm always making excuses to be audio only.
So the avoidance is creating the professional problems you were trying to prevent by avoiding.
Yeah, which is the classic anxiety trap. I'm so worried about looking incompetent on video that I'm actually becoming less effective at my job.
What if you tried some of the same strategies we talked about with other performance anxiety, like focusing on the actual goals of the meeting instead of how you look?
I've tried that, but it's hard when I can see my own face right there on the screen looking back at me.
Can you turn off your self-view? Most video platforms let you hide your own camera feed so you can see other people but not yourself.
Wait, you can do that? That would solve like 90% of the problem.
See, this is what I mean about technology anxiety. Sometimes there are simple technical solutions that we don't know about because we're too busy spiraling to explore the settings.
And what about the lighting and camera angle stuff? Could you set up a better workspace for video calls so you feel more confident about how you look?
I guess I could invest in one of those ring lights and figure out the optimal camera height, but that feels like giving in to the vanity of it all.
Or it could be like wearing clothes that make you feel confident. It's not vanity if it helps you show up more authentically in professional situations.
Right. If better lighting helps you focus on the meeting instead of worrying about your appearance, that's a practical solution, not vanity.
That actually makes me feel better about it. Like, I can improve my setup without it meaning that I'm shallow for caring about how I look on camera.
And remember, most people are way more focused on their own appearance or the meeting content than they are on analyzing your face in the video window.
Plus, the stakes of looking slightly unflattering on a work video call are much lower than anxiety brain makes them seem.
True. No one has ever been fired for having bad lighting on a Zoom call.
Although if they were, that would probably be illegal.
The real question is whether your video call anxiety is preventing you from doing your job effectively, which it sounds like it is.
Yeah, so I need to either figure out how to manage the anxiety or accept that avoiding video calls is going to limit my career.
And since video calls aren't going anywhere in remote work culture, managing the anxiety is probably the better long-term strategy.
Okay, I'm going to try the hidden self-view thing and see if that helps. And maybe invest in better lighting.
And practice focusing on being helpful in meetings instead of monitoring your own performance.
Because the goal is to show up authentically for your work, not to look perfect on camera.
Right. I can be professional and competent even if my camera setup isn't Instagram ready.
Most of professional competence happens through what you say and how you think, not how symmetrical your face looks on someone else's screen.
Time for our guest segment, where we talk to someone dealing with their own digital anxiety. Today, we're talking to Olivia from Washington. Olivia, thanks for calling in.
Hi, everyone. So my problem is similar to what Cora was just talking about, but maybe worse. I've been avoiding video calls at work entirely, and it's starting to really hurt my career.
How long have you been avoiding them?
About 8 months now. It started during the pandemic when everything went remote, and I just never got comfortable with seeing myself on camera. But now my company is hybrid, and I'm still making excuses to not turn my camera on.
What specifically about being on camera feels scary?
I'm convinced I look terrible. Like everyone else looks polished and professional, but I look exhausted and unprepared. And I start obsessing over things like whether my background looks messy or if I'm sitting at a weird angle.
So you spend the whole meeting monitoring your appearance instead of participating in the actual discussion?
Exactly. And then I feel like I'm not contributing as much as I should, which makes me even more self-conscious about being perceived as disengaged.
Have you tried any technical solutions, like adjusting your lighting or camera setup?
A little bit, but I always find new things to worry about. Like if I fix the lighting, then I start worrying about my facial expressions or whether I'm talking too much or too little.
It sounds like the camera appearance is just the surface layer, and underneath there might be broader anxiety about being perceived or judged by your colleagues.
That's probably true. I think I'm afraid that if people can see me clearly, they'll realize I don't know what I'm doing.
But Olivia, you've been doing your job successfully for 8 months without video calls, so you clearly do know what you're doing professionally.
I guess, but it feels like video calls are this test of whether I can look professional and confident, not just be professional and confident.
I totally get that. But what if you tried thinking of video calls as just another communication tool, not a performance or appearance test?
Right. The goal of the meeting is usually to share information or make decisions, not to look perfect on camera.
But what if my manager thinks I'm being difficult or antisocial by not using video?
Have they said anything about it, or are you assuming they're thinking that?
They haven't said anything directly, but I feel like I'm missing out on relationship building and casual interactions that happen more naturally on video.
That's a really good point. Those informal moments before and after meetings can be important for workplace relationships.
So maybe the question is, what would help you feel comfortable enough to try video calls occasionally, even if you don't love how you look?
I don't know. Maybe starting with smaller meetings or one-on-one calls instead of big team meetings?
That's a great idea. You could practice with lower stakes situations and build up your tolerance gradually.
And definitely try the hidden self-view setting so you're not constantly monitoring your own face.
I didn't know that was an option. That might help a lot.
Also, remember that most people look slightly different on video calls than they do in person. It's not just you. Cameras and lighting affect everyone.
And if it helps, you could prep a few talking points ahead of time so you feel more confident about what you're contributing to the meeting, regardless of how you look.
That makes sense. Focus on being helpful rather than looking perfect.
Exactly. And remember, your colleagues are probably more focused on their own appearance anxiety than they are on judging yours.
Thanks. This actually gives me some concrete things to try instead of just avoiding the whole situation.
You've got this, Olivia. Start small and work your way up.
All right, everyone, homework time. This week, we're doing the digital dependency check.
Pick one piece of technology you feel anxious about being without, your phone, internet, GPS, whatever, and practice going without it for a specific limited time.
Start small. Maybe an hour without your phone at home or a short walk without GPS in a familiar area.
The goal isn't to prove you can live without technology forever. It's to prove to yourself that you can handle temporary disconnection without catastrophe.
And notice what feelings come up when you're disconnected. Are the actual problems as bad as the anticipatory anxiety?
Also, practice using technology more intentionally. Before you pick up your phone, ask yourself what specific thing you're trying to accomplish.
Remember, technology should make your life easier and more connected, not more anxious and dependent.
If your devices are making you feel worse instead of better, that's information worth paying attention to.
Thanks for listening to What Me Worry. I'm Emily.
I'm Cora.
I'm Gianna.
And I'm Olivia, and I'm going to try a video call with my camera on this week.
We believe in you, Olivia.
This was an AI scripted voice drama for entertainment and informational purposes only. If you're in crisis or need professional help, please call 988 or contact your local emergency services.
Take care of yourselves out there.
And remember, you survived without smartphones for most of human history. You can handle a few hours offline.